All right, I think we are all set to go. So I just want to thank all of you for coming out today. I know the weather is a little bit chilly. Hopefully you were at worship first, so you're sort of warmed up. We know it's cold in this space too, so we apologize for that today. So today we are doing a fireside chat. We are talking about remodeling at the other campus up the street. The reason for that, you guys will hear some details in a few minutes about the history and how long it's been since we've done anything there. And just as a reminder, here at Celebration, we did do some updates here in 2021, I believe. So the lobby was taken care of and kind of refreshed. So I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Brian for a few minutes so he can start us out in prayer.
Yeah, I just want to briefly say that the goal for Fireside Chats originally was for us just to keep the congregation updated on things. We heard some feedback after the last one that you all want to be a little bit more a part of the process, not in between, but during. And so the goal for this is for the team to share with you the update, and then you'll see each table is going to be invited to share your feedback. And so I just want to say thank you for doing that. There's a million topics we can talk about, but we're going to try to stay as focused as possible on the redesign of the Our Savior's campus for today. And I'm going to just take a moment just to say thank you to the team. So you can see that we got Mark Witt, Christy Redinius, Debbie Park, Jean Jepson, Jacob Himmelman, Jim Harms, and Jan Dusick. They're all a part of this design team that has been working on this for a couple years now. And so can you just take a brief moment to help me say thank you to this team for... Thank them before they present and tell you everything. And then I'm going to begin us with prayer. So the Lord be with you. Holy God, we come to your house, to this place for this church, for prayer, for worship, for fellowship, and connection. It's in these spaces that small groups meet, that our children grow in your word, that couples are married. We baptize people in your name. They affirm their baptism years later, and we even celebrate their lives as they are buried here. This is holy ground, and we have been so blessed to call this place our church and home, and to be good stewards and caretakers of our two campuses. We ask that you bless our conversation with a sense of openness, with the ability to dream and envision the days ahead that you have for us as we call this place home. In your holy name we pray. Amen. So at this time, we're going to pass this off to Jim Harms. He's going to give us an update of literally like the entirety life of our church. So, a historian, and you did a really great job with it last night. So I'm impressed with how he has told this story. So, Jim Harms.
And just as an opening to it, I actually read all of the. We read. Oh, yeah, that's on now. I reviewed all of the council minutes and annual reports from the beginning of the church through about 2005, just to make sure I had it accurate. So many of you may know, but maybe you don't, and the history of this is important. Our church began in 1956, and ironically, our new pastor Ben's original church, Grace Lutheran in LaGrange, helped co-sign a loan to build our first church. And the first church, the sanctuary, was what we today call the Bach room, the chorus room, and that building opened and was dedicated in 1957. The offices that are on the northeast side of that were the original offices and kitchen of the church. The church grew quickly, so in about the end of 1950s, there was a group that sponsored and got agreement from the whole congregation to build a new sanctuary. And in 1963, the sanctuary, as we know it today at the North Campus, was built, along with the bell tower. The narthex was the lower roofed area which is within today what we would call the sanctuary. There was nothing outside of that. So the bell tower actually stood outside in the narthex. In addition to that, at that time, there was an expansion of Sunday school rooms that went to the north side of the sanctuary. And again, thank goodness, the congregation grew and there was a need for additional rooms, and we built what is today known as the education wing. And at that time, we took the chance to build onto what was an open garden area that today is known as Luther Court. Originally, that was simply a grassed and landscaped area. The last addition at that church was completed in 1990, and that's what we know today as the fellowship hall, the kitchen, the bathrooms that are to the north side of the fellowship hall, and maybe I'm talking too long, and to oh, and anyhow, at that time we also added what today we know as the narthex, which enclosed the area that was open before, and about 13 years later, we decided that we needed to replace all of the furnishings and the carpeting, because even though the building had been built in the early 1990s, the wear and tear on it was showing. And so we put in new carpeting throughout the narthex, the runners in the sanctuary, the carpeting that's in the fellowship hall, Luther Court, and new furniture. It took us through now the next 20 years, and the property committee and the group that maintains the church discovered, and we know, that the carpeting in the church now is extremely worn. There are seams, and you'll see this in pictures in a video shortly, that are totally threadbare. We have tried to repair them. We find that they're not repairable. Part of the problem is that carpeting is bonded to the concrete, and anytime you try to rebond it, you tear the carpeting. It's so bad that in front of the Bach room, the choir room, we've had to put a runner down to cover the original carpeting because there's enough trip hazards in there that it's not a safe thing to have. So we elected at that time to recommend that we put in new flooring in the public areas of the church, and we started working on it. And one of the things that we came to a conclusion is that it was an expensive enough project that we wanted to make sure that we could do it with a plan for the longevity of it, with whatever else we may end up doing in the future in the public areas or wherever in that building. And so we went to the council and we made a proposal to the council to look at the potential to decorate areas around, or at least make a plan to decorate the areas around, to make sure that when we do the flooring, we know it's going to last at least another 10 to 20 years, and that would be our hope. In fact, 20 years would be the hope. At that time, the council then challenged us back and said, well, if we're going to look at the potential to redecorate the area, why don't we look at the potential to make a multi-phased plan, or in fact a one-time big project to redecorate and recreate the entire first floor of the building. So what you're here today to is help us, because this is going to be a congregation-led effort with congregation input, so we know that what we're doing is we're making the changes in tune with what you as the congregation would feel keeps the original tenor of the building, but plus refreshes it and becomes more enticing to attend. So with little ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over then to the next presentation. This is Jean Jepson.
All right. Wow, we're getting applause today. That's awesome. That's a first. We really want to thank all of you for choosing Our Saviors as your home church. And as we're in this year of engagement, we've been looking at how we can provide high quality and meaningful worship, encourage participation and engagement within serving and ministry opportunities, and growing our children and youth programs. And just as we're looking at our ministry programs and how we can impact them now and in the future, we were looking at our church building to see how we can support all of that. So again, we took kind of a holistic approach to just like when you're in your own home and you start thinking, oh, we're going to redo the flooring, right? Guess what? Now you're thinking about what color are we going to paint the walls, and we're going to change the cabinets, and we're going to change the furniture. So those are some of the things we started wondering and dreaming about in that process. I want to be very clear that no matter what happens, the flooring needs to be taken care of. So you may hear other things today. Keep in mind, the flooring is still a go at some point. These are just additional things that we've been dreaming about. Another thing I want to be clear about, a lot of people say, what's it going to cost, right? That's always the big question. We don't know that yet, and that is why we are having this discussion today. We are looking through the Fireside chats to see what people tell us as how far we go with these designs. And when we do that, then we'll be able to get a clearer idea of what the costs will be. In addition to that, we are not adding on to the building. There's not a big, addition being put on. There's a part that could happen, but it is not rooms or anything like that, because a lot of people started speculating after the last few. Are we going to do an addition or no? And are we selling the building? No. That was asked in one of the Fireside chats too. So what we want to do today, especially since we're in this building, is we're going to take you on a little tour of the other building. I always tell people at this point, you are more than welcome to laugh at my aerobic walking exercise that you will see in a minute. I was given 2 minutes to do a video, and Pastor Ben helped me with it. He goes, "It's 20 minutes, Jean." And I go, "Well, how are we going to shorten that?" So you'll see how we shortened that. Hi, everyone. I'm Jean Jepson, and I'm the Director of Administration here at Our Saviors. And today we're going to take you on a little tour of the first floor, or the main level, of the Our Saviors campus. Right now we're standing in the narthex. This area is where people enter. Most people enter into this space. They're here before worship and after worship. You'll see we have a baptismal font and a welcome center, an art gallery, and a prayer wall. This is a pretty important space because this is the first thing most people see when they walk into our building. I want to show you a little bit about our carpeting here as we go into the sanctuary, because one of the reasons we're talking about doing some redesigning here or remodeling is we have some challenges with safety with our carpeting here. I'm going to show you just a few of those over this way. As you can see here on the floor, there's some tears along right here, some seams that are starting to come up. The carpeting often buckles, so people are starting to trip on it, and we do not want anyone to get hurt around here. So you can also see over here by the baptismal font that it's quite discolored in several areas. Although it looks like it could just be lighting, that really truly is yellow that's coming through with that. All right, come with me as we go into the sanctuary or our worship space. We're going to go all the way up to the front now. As you can see, we just came down one of our main aisles, and here is our altar area behind me. And we have the choir loft over to the other side. And as we take a view of the entire sanctuary, you can see we have 4 aisles that come down to the main part of the altar area here. Some of the carpeting in this area also is starting to buckle, so we're looking at what do we do for the aisles and the carpeting that we have. Come on, I'm going to show you a little bit more. We're going to go out to Luther Court now. All right, here we are in Luther Court. This is one of our main gathering areas. We have hospitality here. Some small groups meet here. The games group meets here. And you can see there's a columbarium that we have. We have 2 of them, actually. And adjacent to this space, we have a library over my shoulder here. The lights are out right now, but at least you know where it is. And over that direction, we have a nursery, in case you didn't know that. Right, we're going to go down and take a look at the Bach room or the choir room. It's right down here. This is our Bach room, or what we call our choir room. Believe it or not, this was the original sanctuary to the church when Our Saviors was first built. Pretty cool, right? But as you can see, it probably needs a little bit of updating, just like a few other things you've noticed along the way. In here, the choirs practice, and you'll see there's lots of music that is stored along the wall, and other musical instruments. We have hymnals. Anything you might need for worship is in this space, or right outside in the hallway. I'll show you where they store some other things. As you can see, we're still cleaning up from Christmas, but we have our candles from Christmas here, and music stands and chairs, and Well, it might need a little help with some organization in this hallway. Down here we have a prayer chapel, in case you didn't know that this was here. Down this hallway, believe it or not, is some of our offices. Come on, I'll show you. All right, now we're going to go into the education wing. If you'll follow me that way, I'll show you a little bit more down there. This is one of our other classrooms. You can see it's set up more for meeting style, but we also make this a space where we can take the tables down and the kids can sit in here on the floor or do what they need to for Sunday school. We're going to go look at the conference room next. This is our conference room. It's much a smaller space for more private meetings. You can see the chairs are a little mixed-matched in here because as we've gone through time, some of our other chairs have broken. So we have a nice variety of chairs is what I would like to call it here. Next, we're going to walk down the hallway where there's some more offices. This is our workroom where we have our copiers and our mailboxes and our supplies. But you can see we could probably utilize the space a little bit different. So that's one of the things we're wondering about in our new design project. Now we're going to go into the front office. And you'll see Diane and Debbie and Donna.
Hi. Hello. Hello.
They're what I like to call our A-team or our welcoming team. They always are here to help answer questions and phones and when people come in the doors. Now we're going to go down one more hallway where we've got more offices. If you're wondering where coffee gets made on Sunday mornings, this is where it happens. Or when there's a breakfast or a lunch, everything is prepared right here in this kitchen. We have lots of mats on the floor because we had to do some work on the floor a few years ago. Now I'm going to show you the Fellowship Center. The Fellowship Center is our largest gathering space, and as you can see, it divides into two separate spaces because we have this beautiful moving wall. So we can set it up in a circle of chairs like this. We can put tables and chairs in here. You'll often see senior lunches in here or different gatherings for classes or Bible studies. And I'll show you the other side. You can see this space is wide open right now, but again, we use it for multiple purpose things. Large gathering space. When we're all together as one church here on this campus, this is where we'll try to do that. Well, we're right back to where we started. So I just thank you for taking this tour of Our Savior's campus with me. And anytime you're on this campus, we encourage you to explore the different locations, the different rooms. Check it out. And if you have ideas about how we can improve things or change things or reorganize things, we would love to hear from you. Thanks again for taking the tour with me. Bye. I dare any one of you to go to that campus and walk as fast as I did. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Mark and Jacob, and they're going to talk a little bit about how we started dreaming up beyond the flooring.
Thanks, Jean. And just a side note, Jean, I think, we had several property committee meetings, and Jean would come to the meetings and say, well, I've got a group together, and we're going to be looking at carpet replacement. And I think it was like at the third meeting, I said, can we call it floor coverings and not carpeting? Because, to expand the options. And so she says, that's great, we can do that, and would you want to be part of the committee? So anyway, so be careful what you sometimes say, right? But anyway, really what we looked at as far as a committee is really look at a holistic approach to it. And as I say, just not looking at it as just this is going to be floor, coverings. We started talking to some design firms, interviewed several of them. We actually ended up picking a firm here in Naperville called CVG, and they've been able to assist us in kind of our thought process. And so some of the things that were important to us is just making sure that we had a welcoming, inviting building for all people. Also the importance of accessibility, not only just, an aging population, but also looking at young families and what their needs are. Function, comfort, efficiency, flexibility, all those were very important to us. And also we wanted to make sure we honored the history of the building. And it was interesting, when we were talking to the various design firms, they all walked around and invariably said, you've got really good bones here. We don't need to, do drastic wall removals and stuff like that. But we do need to just enhance this existing space. And so that was important. And then when we were looking at it also, we were looking at flexible, comfortable furniture. I think, as you guys know that have been down at that campus, the furniture's aging. The chairs are very heavy, and it's not easy to move tables and chairs around, so we wanted that flexibility. Improved lighting. It's amazing how lighting has changed just in the last 20 years from LED and what that can do in order to enhance spaces. Acoustical improvements. If you've been in the fellowship hall and there's a larger group, it's difficult to hear people. And then also looking at just wall finishes. We've got a lot of brick, as we know, but there are ways that we can do to kind of, be able to use that brick, whether it's lightening it up or panels or other ideas, and you'll see some of that during our presentation. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jacob.
Okay, so up on the screen is a concept of materials and palettes that we could use to enhance the entire main level. CVG has developed these examples of materials to make these changes in the space, updating the flooring, the lighting, the walls, and other interior elements. Though these colors are current with today's design trends, they're timeless and I think could really carry us into the future. We wanted to share also some other areas improvement that have been identified by the design team. First of all, the sanctuary. Obviously, we have been discussing that there's a lot of carpeting that's been buckling, so we have some trip hazards there. But also, the sanctuary could benefit from enhanced lighting. And also, people with limited mobility. Right now, all of the seating is kind of in the back of the space and not really very accessible. And then also our current setup with the various aisles. We don't have a center aisle, so sometimes that can be limiting for different types of worship. And then also when we have special worship like the cantata, we got to pull out the pews and kind of make those adjustments, which can be challenging for the team. And then also for young families, we might want to have a space that's in the worship space for them or close by that could really be accessible and integrate them more into the worship.
Okay, this next slide you'll see is really the narthex area. And let me point out first is that these are just broad concepts. That's why you guys are here, in order to help us, kind of plan for the future. But I think what it does show you is that, there's certain things that can be done just to kind of lighten up that space and create a very welcoming, view. If you look at it, we're looking at better traffic flow, seating areas. There's a seating area there. Don't get worried about that. I mean, we just wanted to show kind of what, potentially it could look like. As I said before, acoustics is important. Improved lighting, which I think, that does a really good job of showing that. And then creating an enhanced welcome center. As you can see, that, is shown up there as well. So then next slide is the Luther Court, and you can see the columbariums. Again, focusing on the floor covering, lighting, lighting up the ceiling, all things that can be done in order to basically enhance that space. We have spoken about creating a permanent hospitality area versus, just rolling carts out. As I said, enhancing the lighting. Just finding ways to make the space feel more intimate, and enhancing the furnishings for safety, appearance, as well as to create flexibility. Now, also what we looked at is we looked at classrooms, conference room, again, looking at flexible, chairs and tables for those spaces. The Bach choir room, as Jean toured us through that room. I think there's a lot of things that can be done there in order to increase the storage for music and updating the finishes of that. Restrooms, as people that have been restrooms down there, there's actually a pink tile in one restroom and a blue tile in the other one. And it's like, that's very dated. And I think that what our focus is, we need to create spaces that are accessible to all. And then offices, updating, furniture, finishes, that was all on our list. And then some people have actually mentioned a portico chair or awning to create at the main entrance of the building. We've looked at that, discussed it. Frankly, what our focus wanted to be is kind of looking at the interior spaces, and then once we solve all that, that could be an option down the road. I'll turn it over to Jean now.
Again, everything you've seen today, I just want to remind you, everything is a concept, right? We just wanted to be able to give you some visuals so you could start to think what it could look like. Nothing has been decided. The furniture is what they put in just to give an example of how we could enhance the space. You have heard what we've been thinking about and wondering about, and now it's your turn to give us your input. So we're going to have some table discussions here in just a few seconds. One thing that's really important for us, and you'll see it, I don't know which question it is, but we're really interested in knowing, do we dream big, like all the things we've shown you? Do we look at just our public areas, which are our larger spaces? That would be the sanctuary, the narthex, the fellowship center, and Luther Court. Or do we stick strictly to flooring right now? Though the answers to those questions will help us get design development drawings after this, and that next phase is going to cost us some money, so we wanted to make sure that we had input from the congregation before we decided to go too big or too small, just to see what people were thinking with that. So we're going to ask you to sit at tables, and we're going to kind of divide up. The team will be at your tables facilitating those discussions. We'll give you maybe 15, 20 minutes-ish to have some time to talk as a group, and there are sheets there if you could fill them out for us. We'll be compiling all of that and then sharing that with you later. So I'm going to turn the lights back up so you can see a little better. Also, if you needed to refer to anything that we have in the presentation, there are copies of the presentation on your table. So if you're wondering about some of those drawings you saw or anything like that, you can refer to those during your discussions. Thanks.